One of the important concepts that we've discussed is that there's a relationship between expected return and risk. The greater the level of risk, the greater the expected return. However, we want to get very specific with that relationship, and one of the important elements is the fact that there is systematic risk and unsystematic risk, and investors can eliminate unsystematic risk if they hold a well diversified portfolio, and therefore they're not compensated for bearing any unsystematic risk. So even if you have all your money tied up into one stock and that stock has a lot of unsystematic risk, because you can eliminate the effect of unsystematic risk by having lots and lots and lots of stocks. They're all being bouncing around because of news that's unique to them. But when you average it together, it cancels out every single day. Since you can do that, you don't get compensated for holding one stock that has a lot of unsystematic risk. Therefore, only an asset's systematic risk is rewarded. It can't be diversified away. If you have a well diversified portfolio, all the assets in there have systematic risk. They're all responding to the macroeconomic news. Well, guess what? The systematic risk of the whole portfolio is just the average systematic risk of the individual members. There's no cancellation. There's no kind of subtraction by addition, where as you keep adding members, the level of systematic risk goes down simply because you're adding more because of cancellation. And therefore, systematic risk is the only kind of risk that influences the total risk of a well-diversified portfolio. News is coming out and it's macroeconomic or kind of individualistic. The individual news is canceling each other out. The only thing that's affecting a well-diversified portfolio is the systematic risk. Therefore, because systematic risk is the only risk that's rewarded, and this is in red because it's very, very important, expected returns are based on the level of systematic risk. So when we talk about expected return and risk, the risk that matters, the risk that's part of that relationship, is systematic risk. And as it says here, it's a very, 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 very important assertion in finance. It's a Nobel Prize winning idea, is that you've got total risk and returns are bouncing around for two reasons, responding to two kinds of news. The only one that matters is the macroeconomic news or the systematic risk that generally affects everybody, and that's because it can't be diversified away. So that leaves us with two really important questions that we need to answer. The first is, how do we measure systematic risk? So we're saying systematic risk is important. It's useful to have a measure that captures the level of systematic risk that a particular asset or a portfolio has. And the second is, how exactly is expected return related to systematic risk? So we can actually, and we will, develop a model that gives us a quantitative relationship that says if it's this much systematic risk, then this tells us what the expected return is that's consistent with that level of risk.